The bleeding wouldn't stop. It soaked right through the thin hospital gown, dripping off the gurney in a slow, steady rhythm. One nurse kept looking at the clock, nervously. They asked if anyone was coming. I nodded, said yes. At first, I believed he'd show. But after an hour, I stopped replying. I had already sent 2 texts, made 1 call. When I called again, he finally answered, out of breath, irritated. "Claire's falling apart," he said. "She's devastated about the interview. Just wrecked. Why are you being so dramatic? You're not dying. Don't make a big deal." Then he hung up. I was in the ER with internal bleeding. They discovered it after a second scan. A ruptured fallopian tube from an ectopic pregnancy. If they'd waited longer, I would have gone into shock. He knew I was there. But Claire's tears over a job rejection took priority. I used to believe I was his favorite, the calm one, the low-maintenance daughter who never asked for anything. I told myself that being the quiet one made me resilient. I thought it was something to be proud of. Growing up, I saw how much more Claire needed: attention, comfort, constant reassurance. I didn't resent it at first. I figured someone had to be the strong one. Dad always praised my steadiness, told others I was the one who didn't fall apart. But it wasn't a compliment. It was a convenience. He admired Claire's emotional outbursts because they made him feel useful. Her chaos gave him purpose. Mine made him uncomfortable. When I was calm, he called me mature. When I was hurting, he called me dramatic. I didn't cry after surgery. I lay there, tubes in my arm, eyes open, listening to the soft beep of the heart monitor. When he arrived, 2 hours late, Claire trailed behind, red-eyed and fragile, the center of his universe as always. He looked at me with irritation, not concern. "You should have told us it was serious," he said. But I had. I didn't argue, didn't beg him to see me, because something inside me shifted in that sterile, fluorescent room. Something final. That night, I stopped pretending he hadn't already made his choice. From then on, I made mine. It started with the estate. Mom had made me her executor before she died, said she didn't trust Dad to handle things rationally. Back then, I didn't understand. Now I did. The savings, the jewelry, the house in Vermont, all tied up in a trust. Claire assumed she'd get half. Dad assumed she'd get more than me. But I rewrote the distribution terms. Claire would get a stipend, just enough to live on, not enough to waste, and only if she held a job. As for Dad, nothing. Not a cent. The authority was mine legally. He'd signed off on it years earlier without reading the details. Typical. Next was the family house. When Mom passed, her half transferred to me. The title was still shared, but Dad couldn't afford to buy me out. I waited until he missed a few payments, then offered to purchase his share at fair market value. He balked, said, "You wouldn't do that to your father." I told him, "I'm not doing anything to you. I'm just protecting what's mine." Then I disappeared from their lives. No calls. No visits. Holidays came and went. Claire sent rambling emails filled with guilt. Dad sent one-liners. "Don't punish us for one bad moment." But it hadn't been one moment. It had been years. Years of being overlooked because I was too composed. Years of holding myself together while they unraveled into each other's arms. I had been the adult in the room since I was a child. 6 months later, I heard he'd sold his car and downsized into a studio apartment. Claire was living with him again, jobless, anxious, stuck in her cycle. They said I had changed. But the truth was, I had simply stopped bleeding for people who never even noticed I was wounded. I saw him last month at a distant cousin's funeral. He walked up slowly, like I was a storm he hoped wouldn't break. I didn't lash out. I didn't need to. His face told me everything. Real regret, raw, heavy, suffocating. "I didn't know it was that bad," he whispered. I leaned close, voice low. "You didn't want to know. That's worse." He opened his mouth to speak again, but I was already turning away. Justice didn't roar. It didn't need to. It came softly, in unread contracts, in frozen accounts, in unanswered calls. It arrived in the slow dawning of understanding, in the ache that grows when neglect is finally seen for what it is. I wasn't dying that night, but I could have been. And still he chose her breakdown over my blood. Now I choose.